Hello and welcome back to another Player 2 review discussion. And once again, as always, I'm joined by Player 2 legend, Editor-in-Chief, Matt Houston. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm just going to wear it now.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
oh
I'm the
good. So
legend.
I've
I'll just
broken
run
you.
with it.
There we go. I've broken you. It was
Just
literally the
like my
last time you said
nagging
that you're not
kids, you
gonna,
know.
you're never gonna stand for it. Well, you've already folded.
It's just easier to nod and smile and go with it, really.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll pay that. So for anyone who's listening on podcast feeds, because anyone who's watching the video, it should be crystal clear now by what you're seeing on screen. But for anyone listening on podcast feeds, we are talking about Far Cry 6. You and I have both had access to a code.
Yes.
You've penned a review for the Player 2 website that is available to go check out now. I've been playing it for Player 2 Plays and this discussion here. So we've both spent a bit of time with it. Matt, you've put the most time into it. Anyone else who's kind of skulking the Player 2 website at the moment knows that I've been sharing my time between Far Cry and another title that I had to review as well.
Yes.
So what do you think of Far Cry 6? There's a lot of baggage, I guess, with the franchise. There's, so many...
There
Not
is.
because of... I think mostly still because of Far Cry 3. I think every game is still in the shadow of Vast.
Compared to Far Cry 3. There is a lot to say about Far Cry 6. There really is, and it
A
has
lot of really good
resulted
stuff
in
too.
a lot of really good stuff. Lots of really good stuff, I've got to say. And it's resulted in the longest review I've written probably ever. Um, Close to 2,000 words on Far Cry 6
Gee,
because
that bloated a bit since we last discussed it.
yeah, so
You was just
it
crossing
finished up
1,000 and going strong. I didn't think we'd get as far as 2,000 though. Very nicely
yeah,
done.
we almost got there. I think just shy of, but the thing with Far Cry 6 is it surpassed both my expectations for a Far Cry game and of what a game that Ubisoft could produce, to be honest.
Good.
Um, it has problems, don't get me wrong. It's not without its issues, but what it has delivered is like a kind of refinement of the Far Cry formula, but at the same time, it has put everything into a context that makes everything better. So every action you make in that world, even though there's that Far Cry DNA where you're, hunting down outposts and that sort of thing, that all has much more context in Far Cry 6 and therefore makes it more meaningful. All your engagements have purpose. No longer are you just taking over outposts because they're outposts with baddies.
Yeah.
They're military installations that are providing armor to Anton
Yeah,
Castillo,
it's
or
all
they're
part of the beating heart that is Yara and everything that's
yeah.
going on.
And I mean, for those that don't know, Yara is essentially Cuba.
Yeah.
It's just Cuba with a different name. Anton Castillo is played by Giancarlo Esposito, and he is
Who
reason
lots of people know
enough.
as an exceptional villain in lots of big television series. I guess
Yes,
more recently the likes of Mandalorian, but of course a lot of people think of him from Breaking
Breaking
Bad.
Bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And he is just amazing in this game. Like he is a reason to buy this game.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, you've played a lot deeper than I have. You've finished the game. I
yes.
haven't, again for the reasons we outlined before. But I like every time Giancarlo or Anton is on the screen, I
Yeah.
am glued to everything he's doing and hooked on every word that comes out of his mouth because it's dripping with that same intimidatory tone that we hear in every other role he takes on.
Yeah.
He just does such a fantastic job.
And what he does too is he's so passionate and so convicted that he's in the right, that
Yeah,
he becomes almost a sympathetic bad guy. Not You can't discount what he's doing to this world,
yeah.
this
This
Yara.
country, yeah.
He's brutal, and the game doesn't hide from that. But the way he speaks with such conviction, it really cements him as like not just a quality bad guy in a video game, a quality bad guy full stop. Like
Yeah.
the type of bad guy you compare to Hannibal Lecter or someone like that. He's
That's a
just
big
so
call.
good. Yeah, like honestly, it's that type of performance from him, and it's really a reason to buy this game alone.
So as a villain, best in franchise.
Yes,
Yeah,
I everyone says Vars. Vars has just been beaten.
that's
And
awesome to hear. I mean, again, like I was feeling it, but without having
yeah,
seen the full arc yet, some reservations still, I
and
suppose.
I'm not going to tell you what happens, but I know a lot of people didn't like the ending of Far Cry 5.
Yep.
Um, I think people will not like this ending, but that's because you're not supposed to like it. It is quite a shocking and
Like it's unsettling.
unsettling
Yeah.
ending. It's thematically appropriate, and possibly one that some may see coming, but I certainly didn't. So it was kind of that ending, you sit there at the end of a movie that's kind of left you with a big shock, and you kind of right, and you kind of
Is it the
take it in
sort of
for a
ending,
while.
and I
Yeah.
guess just kind of observing the pattern that we're seeing in Far Cry games recently, where they're looking to put some sort of point 0.5 game in there. From Far Cry 4, we saw like is this something like a New
No.
Dawn that we're going to see? This is a very hard cut, hard ending.
Well, that's
Could you
not to say
see
they
them
couldn't
build on it?
tell more stories in Yara, but it's a very definitive ending of
Yeah.
this
Okay.
story. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Um, yeah, and the other actors in the game, like, and this is what takes so long in my review, I guess, is that with a performance like Giancarlo's in the game, it would be very easy for other actors to be overshadowed, but they're
They're
not.
strong. Yeah,
Every
they're strong.
they're very strong. Every character in this game has been performed wonderfully. They've got some really high quality voice and performance actors here in this game. Danny, the lead character, I don't know if you played male or
I
female.
played male, but I know you played female.
Yeah, I played female, and honestly, she's just wonderful.
They're
Like
both well done.
incredibly lovable, yet vicious and brutal at the same time. She doesn't shy away from her actions.
Which is actually something they've gotten a bit better at. I guess it's only been recent Assassin's Creed titles, for
mm,
example, where we've started to see like you're given the choice. I mean, I
yep,
even think about Syndicate, where you played both Jacob and Evie Fry. It was when
yep,
we got to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, where and that's applies to then other franchises as well, the Watch Dogs and all
yep,
those sort of things, where we actually started to get some semblance of choice.
yep,
And in that case, in the case of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Cassandra was clearly the best choice
mm,
in terms of the way she was acted, the way she was written, everything about that character. But I was thrilled like hearing your feedback before we even had this conversation, and then my experiences with the male version of Danny. I felt like okay, good. They're starting to like they're not putting all their attention into one. They're really committing
no,
hard to both, and they're exploring the slightly varying facets of each, depending on I mean, this is a very yeah, they didn't want to be political. It's a very politically charged environment all the
yes,
time, and there's gender things that kind of similar to the surface at points as well, and just even the way characters speak to one another. Like there are those little subtleties there, and sometimes not so subtle, but. It's great to see that they've really committed the resource to both variants of the main character there, and they're both feeling the part.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the dialogue in this game is the best in Far Cry franchise. Like just the general conversations that you have, the writing is snappy. It's quite often funny.
Yeah,
Um,
there were some funny moments.
yeah, there's a really good drunk scene. I'm all for a good drunk scene in video games, and there's
Yep.
a really good one of those in this. Um, uh, there's also the supporting cast are all fantastic, and there's quite a bit of diversity and representation here. Two of the main characters are queer.
Yep.
Um, One's a trans. He's one of the main characters. He's trans. He's been kicked out of the army because he was trans, and now is fighting as a guerrilla. Um, and he is fantastically written. Like I found his inclusion to be not there just to tick a diversity box. It was
It
an
was a
essential
meaningfully
part of the
written character.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he was there because, and he has some quite poignant moments when he says, this is a very clearly Catholic country. It's South America. South America is all incredibly Catholic.
Yep.
And he says, why am I fighting for a better Yara when that Yara won't accept me? It's moments like that show they've put quite a bit of thought into that. And then there's also the drag queen spy master who, a drag queen's quite often used as a punchline material.
Yeah, ultra
This is
flamboyant and
Yeah,
way over the
this is
top,
not the
and
case at
yeah,
all. Like Rosa is the drag queen character, and she is a source of joy. But because she's a joyful character, not because of any jokes
yeah, they're not trying to ham
punched
that
at
element
her
up. Yeah,
her expense, and it makes sense. She's a drag queen. She's got access to the military because they come to her shows, so she uses that to collect information on the military and became the spy master for the guerrilla forces. So they've done a really good job there, and this is the parts that have really surpassed my expectations for what Ubisoft and what AAA games in general
can be.
usually do. They've done such a good job with all the actors and the writing. It was really, really impressive, and it papers over some of the little things that kind of get in the road at times.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of elements of that I still haven't seen, but I have met both characters you're talking about,
Yeah,
and yeah, you described it really well. Like they're not inserted into the story just to tick a box. There is
yeah,
meaning behind their inclusion, and it feels like great in that respect. Um, and that obviously applies to the other characters as well. Like, I think everyone's been really well written for the most part. There's a couple of awkward lines every now and then, and sometimes it's the delivery as opposed to the writing. There's a couple moments, but
yes,
the like 99% of the experience is just, it's really tight, it's meaningful, it hits the mark. Whether it's a comedic edge or a more serious tone, it works. The gameplay. We tend to know what Far Cry is all about, and it's loot. For a long time, it wasn't really loot 'em, shoot 'em. You just collect your resources and make your
yeah,
crocodile bag and all that sort of stuff, and you just keep building up, building up, building up, and then move on. But I guess almost with to an extent Far Cry 5, but then especially with New Dawn, they started to tilt a little bit more into some RPG systems and build that out a little bit, right to the point within New Dawn where they had damage counters popping out and all those sorts of things, which they didn't bring with them for Far Cry 6. But you can see elements that were introduced in 5 and 6 quite prominent
yeah.
here, and there's different levels to your gear and all those sorts of things as well that
So they've
work
switched
well.
completely from a skill tree.
Yeah,
So there's no skill tree anymore.
it's all
And
about
now
your gear.
everything is about your gear and your rank. And your higher rank gives you access to more gear.
Yeah,
But the thing I really like about the system is your level 1 gun is still just as effective in late game as your level 4 gun. It just has different options to mod it.
yeah,
So if you come across a mod combo with an early gun, you can play with that gun perfectly fine the whole game. Just because you're now facing tougher enemies doesn't mean that gun is a pea shooter.
yeah.
It's still an assault rifle, you know.
Yeah, for the
It's
most
still,
part, it boils down to your proficiency with the weapon. You can
yes,
still get
more
by if you're good with the gun in your hand.
absolutely. And the higher ranked weapons, it's more about giving you, I guess, access to more ways and more weapons and
Yep.
more gear as opposed to better gear, I guess. Um, the Supremos, which are the backpacks,
Big fan of that the
the
first time I
homemade,
fired
they're
off.
wonderful. Yeah, there's some really good ones in there, and chopping and changing really helps out in the later missions because this game is tough. Don't let anyone fool you. Like on normal difficulty, this is a game
It
that's
can still
tough.
kick your ass, yeah.
You'll die if you don't prepare. Stealth is important.
Yep.
Tactics are important. If you run into an outpost, you are going to die, and you're going to die fast.
Yeah, your amigos
Um,
aren't going to bail you out. The
no,
animal
no, the animals.
companions, yeah. Who who
Yeah,
who
it's
was
not.
your go-to companion, by the way? Did you have one, or
Uh,
did you chop and change a bit?
Originally it was Guapo,
Yeah,
and I
Guapo's pretty cool. The
upgraded
crocodile
Guapo
or
the
alligator,
crocodile. No,
alligator,
it's Croc.
crocodile, croc.
Croc, I think. Yeah. And then it became for a while it was Boom Boom, which is actually Boomer from Far Cry 5.
Yep.
Um, and then
Did you mess with Chorizo? Chorizo's the star
Chorizo, I
attraction.
didn't bother with it. I found him. I used him a couple of times. He's a bit useless, so he's there for cute factor only.
And it
Um, and
works.
then and then Chicharron, which is the psychopathic rooster, which is quite hilarious. You'll be
What
fighting, and all of a
the
sudden, this
Tekken?
giant rooster comes flying across the screen.
Did you get involved in the Tekken style cockfighting?
I played it. It's a pretty simple.
It's
Tekken's a bit
a bit of stupid fun.
generous,
Well, I mean,
but
because they've kind
yeah,
of gone for that 3D arena fighter
yeah,
style
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
certainly
fun though.
certainly nowhere near as deep, but it's like they're trying to
Yeah.
evoke that style. Um,
There's
and
a
it was
lot of
good
little
fun.
fun things like that. Fishing is really good in this one too.
I didn't
I
mess
had
with
a
the
lot
fishing
of
too much,
I had
or so
a
far.
good bit of fun with the fishing. It's certainly improved since Far Cry 5 and became quite challenging to catch some of the more difficult fish.
Yeah, it's fair. Combining now, we've obviously discussed the story a little bit, but combining that
Mm.
with the gameplay that we've just discussed, do you feel like six has done enough to stand itself apart from the established formula in a lot of ways? Because I think, and I certainly felt it when I was playing Far Cry 5, fatigue was starting to kick in a little bit. It was
Mm.
starting to feel a little bit samey. It was starting like we'd been there and done it. We'd done it a few times. Nothing was quite meeting what Far Cry 3 had done in the eyes of a lot of people. Um, Despite the fact that Joseph Seed was interesting enough,
Yeah.
and I've gone blank on Far Cry 4's Pagan Min. Pagan Min
Pagan Min, yeah.
was a great character too, but still nothing quite hit the vast level. And then gameplay wise, it had been more of the same to an extent for a while. Do you feel like combining everything we've discussed, that Far Cry 6 is doing enough to shake things up enough?
Yeah.
It's not a revolution,
No,
contrary
no,
to
I
the
think
story.
it is a really, really good refinement of what Far Cry is, and it takes it to the next level. Um, so it certainly shakes the formula up enough. I think the context that I mentioned earlier is incredibly important to the
Makes a big
feel of the
difference.
game. Um, so you're not just doing things for the sake of a checklist. Everything you do has purpose, which is uh, really good. It makes you feel like your actions matter and are not just ticking off something on a list.
Well, that's what we see in a good
Uh,
side quest. That's what a lot of big RPGs are shooting for these days, where the side quests are just as impactful as
yeah,
the main mission. I guess Witcher 3 is a brilliant example of that, where the side quests were, in the eyes of some, were better than the main mission itself, which was itself was amazing. So I think the more games that pursue that path, where your side quests, your side missions, whatever you want to call them, the other activities outside of the golden path, where if they start to feel meaningful, like they are contributing to your big picture story,
yeah,
you're on the right track,
absolutely.
RPG or not.
And I think this like it gets rid of some of the cliches from Far Cry. There's no tower climbing, or if
There
you
is
want to climb
burning
a tower,
weed.
there is early on. There's a very subtle nod to Far Cry
Yeah,
3's weed burning mission, and Danny even comments as you finish that mission,
yeah. He
said,
kind of
"Oh, that
comments on
felt
the originality.
familiar." Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's little nods and stuff to, and like I said, Boomer from Far Cry 5's in it, the cattle dog.
Yep.
Um, there's no Herc for the first time since I think 4 or 3 did Herc appear in. But
Yeah.
yeah, as the co-op partner. He's
Herc
been
was
around for a while.
Herc was in 5. I'm
He
sure
was in
probably in
4,
4. I'm starting to
and he
scratch
was
my
in
memory
New
for 3.
Dawn.
Yeah, it was in New Dawn.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
my memory starts to fade a little bit when we start to talk about 3 there in terms of the periphery
Of
stuff. I
who
think
was in
everyone
it?
thinks about
Yeah.
Vast, but um, yeah, you're right. There's enough in terms of kind of some throwbacks and some homage to what's come before, but it does feel fresh.
Yeah, it certainly does. And there is a nice little Easter egg right at the end of the credits, like a little
Post credit
stinger.
scene.
Yeah, Marvel pioneered, so hang around for that. It's worth checking out. But yeah, I think this is a really really good effort. There are my biggest problems with the game are problems that Far Cry's kind of had before, but they seem more
Yep.
so this time around. The AI of the companions is stupid at times. There's one mission in particular where you had to rescue a fellow from jail, um, and you're supposed to escape. And I spent a long time being stealthy and getting to his prison and unlocking him without setting off alarms. And then the first thing he does is start shooting everyone. And then he starts shooting the tank. And we're like, mate, we just got to hightail this shit out of here and we'll
Yeah.
be fine. But you want to stop and shoot everything that moves,
Yeah, it seems
So
like there's the occasional moment where like they wanted you to play it a certain way, and if you
yeah.
didn't, then what comes next
Well,
kind
yeah,
of
it just felt
counters that.
like
Yeah,
bad programming, like bad AI programming there. Um, the your pets get in the road a bit when you're trying to be stealthy too. If you're trying to sneak around a corner and you can't because you're dumb crocodile sitting in front of you.
To be fair, I don't know how. Like, obviously some liberties in the first place. No one's being
Yeah,
stealthy if you've got a pet crocodile on your side. Like,
I do
people are
laugh
people are
when
noticing that straight away, or a sausage dog in a wheelchair, and like, there's nothing.
I do
They're as
laugh
subtle as a brick.
when the soldiers see your animals. They always comment, but they don't freak out. So if you're sneaking around, and you'll see one of the soldiers go, "Holy hell! Why is that crocodile not in the water?" and stuff like that in Spanish quite often, which is also very cool. I found very awesome because I speak Spanish very badly right now, but I did used to live in South America, and
It
that
feels
kind of
genuine.
combination. Yeah, it feels very genuine. The swearing is 100% on point in Spanish.
Oh, you wouldn't want to mess that up. That'd be one of the
No,
things you'd be
no.
making sure you tick that box
Spanish is a
straight away.
very satisfying language to swear in, and they got that really well.
Good.
Yeah, and that kind of Spanglish talk that they're using for most of the game, it feels really authentic, and like the accents are really good. They've obviously gotten South American or Latin American voice actors to do
Awesome.
a lot of the work. So that all feels really good. But yeah, the AI and the other thing that I found that was annoying was the reload animations are long and they're uninterruptible. So if you get caught in a battle and need to reload and all of a sudden need to heal, you can't. So
Yeah,
there's
I've
been
got
more.
myself stuck a few times with that so far.
Yeah, so the uninterruptible reload animations got annoying, especially in some of the tougher battles where, you might have run out of a clip and the game's automatically gone to reload you. And then you got stuck in a reload animation instead of trying to heal yourself. So things like that kind of got in the road at times, but they're kind of minor. They're very minor
Yeah.
issues. They're kind of me pointing things out for the sake of finding something that kind of annoyed
And
me more
honestly, for
than
the most
anything.
part, I've gotten myself stuck in those scenarios because I've got myself into a situation where I was being excessively aggressive, and then that's
Mm.
happened. So
Yeah.
partially self-inflicted as well.
It is, but it's the sort of game that some of the best gameplay is impromptu.
Yeah,
You spend a lot of your time sneaking, and then it'll go to shit, and it'll go to shit in a big way, and
because
all
you
of a
didn't
sudden
see
you
a
go, "Hey,
camera or any
yeah,
number
you
of little things.
you missed something, or a guy walked around the corner and saw you, and it just goes to hell, and then you somehow get out of it, and that's a super satisfying moment in the game. You can get yourself out of those things, and turning tail and running is a legitimate option here because you will get overwhelmed pretty quickly, especially if they start calling in helicopters and things.
Oh, the
So
helicopters.
yeah,
Oh, the helicopters. Yeah,
yeah. So that's where your backpacks come in handy. They save your life with helicopters. But yeah,
yeah. It's I mean, it really does come together in a fantastic whole. I've enjoyed a lot of my time with it so far.
mm.
I fortunately still have time to continue playing,
Yep,
and more. There's more to see, and I look forward to being able to highlight some, especially get to this ending that you've been talking about.
yeah.
It's gonna be quite cool. Did you and you and I were playing on different platforms? You were playing on the Xbox, I was playing on PlayStation. But did you manage to get to try out any of the online, like the co-op, the online at all with someone else who might have been playing on the same platform or whatever?
No, I didn't get to play any co-op missions, but I tried some of the co-op missions out by myself. So they're very similar to the helicopter missions that were in Far Cry New Dawn, where
Yeah,
you get choppered to a new location, but they're on a bigger scale. So, for example, there's one in a dinosaur theme park that's
yeah.
been let to rot, and you go through that, and you have to get to a weapon and keep it cool on the way back to the car by visiting water stations or fountains or ponds on the way back to your escape location. So it becomes like kind of this multi-staged mission instead of just get here, steal that, and get out sort of thing. So that they've kind of taken that concept from Far Cry New Dawn and kind of expanded on it. And I think they're going to be very fun with a partner in tow because I did certainly find myself pushed to my limits with that
Yeah, okay.
as a solo player. I managed to do it, but it was tough and probably took a lot longer than it should have because it was only just me. So it's not impossible solo, that's for sure. But with a
No,
partner, it certainly.
I've come close on a few occasions. And I probably just need
Yeah.
to kind of alter the way I'm playing, and things
Mm.
will come good in that respect.
Yeah, so they're good and they offer good rewards. Like for gear, they give you this different currency which you can use on the black market and
Yeah,
get some cool unique gear, which is fun.
so definitely worth
Some of the
pursuing.
yeah, and some of the unique weapons are a lot of fun.
And it's definitely
You
something
know,
I do actually want to jump online with, with a friend and play or something like that. So something
yeah,
I'm
for
looking forward to
sure.
doing at some stage.
There's not enough co-op shooters, I don't think. I think, as I get older, I appreciate co-op more than I appreciate competitive. So,
Oh yeah, I'm not
um,
not competitive at all. That might be because I'm
so
shit. I don't know. It might be more of an ability thing that's rearing its head there. But no, I'm with you.
yeah,
The co-op
absolutely.
experience and being able to work with a friend as opposed to against them is
Mm.
always more enjoyable for me.
Yeah, I think so too. So yeah, I think they've done that well, and it should be. I mean, as long as the netcode's good, but the Far Cry netcode's always been pretty good with co-op.
Yeah,
So
it has been
I
previously. Yeah,
can't,
for
I
sure.
can't see why it wouldn't be.
Yeah, agreed. He's hoping. Any
He's
other
hoping.
thoughts at all?
It's stunning.
It,
Like,
it does look good. Yeah, it does look
it's a
really good.
very good looking game. Like, Yara is a pretty place to be, and it's
For the
also the
most part,
most.
the faces are so. They look like a Ubisoft sort of modeled face. Like
Yeah, yeah,
there is a look and feel about them. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, but there's a look and
yeah.
feel about faces
That's
modeled
their
from
tech, I
Ubisoft
think, that they
Studios. And yeah,
use, and yeah. Um, I think Yara is the most interesting and certainly the most lived-in location that a
yeah,
Far Cry game's been in. It feels like Cuba, so it feels like there is a population. It feels like it's a world that's moving outside of you, whereas other Far Cry games have always been in these isolated
yeah. Deserted
communities,
island or whatever the case happens
deserted,
to be. Yeah,
or even out in the sticks in America,
yeah.
where there's very few people. Whereas here, this is like there's cities, there's cities, there's towns, there's small rural communities, and they all intertwine. There's farms in between them, and it feels very much like a living, breathing island as opposed to just a playground for
And another thing
your
I felt
fun.
was also the terrain side of it, more vertical than I.
Yeah,
I mean, like obviously Far Cry 5 and the nature of the area, it was quite flat for the most part.
yeah,
But and we've seen some verticality in the likes of 4, for example, because it was in the the setting was kind
in
of
the
the Himalayas. But
Himalayas.
these are kind of really craggy areas and lots of kind of weirdly intertwining um, rocky
Pathways
faces and
and
those sort of things. It was really,
yeah,
really great to just explore those. And a lot of the time it's all just part of a messy terrain, and so it sometimes more often than not leads to nothing. But it was great to just go exploring and see what there was, and explore the verticality and those sort of things. Like, I wonder what's up there, and I'll try and zigzag my way
yeah,
up there and go with some Skyrim style mountain climbing every now and then, defy gravity and those sort of things to make my. But it was worth it. I
yeah, yeah.
loved just kind of exploring those things. And again, sometimes more often than not, there was nothing there, but it was worthwhile just getting out there and having a look.
Absolutely, and I think I used my parachute and wingsuit in this Far Cry game more than
More than
I've
ever.
ever had previously. Super cool way of getting around is your wingsuit in this one, especially because you can call in airdrops when you
Yep.
fast travel now. So you can either fast travel to a location, but what I quite often did was I'd get the airdrop to that location and then zoom off towards my actual goal.
Yep.
So I'd find my fast travel point and then wingsuit towards it, and it created this kind of cool Superman sort of feeling. You're heading hammering off and
Yeah.
pull your
And then
parachute
boom,
at the
off you
last
go.
minute. Yeah, yeah. So that was a lot of fun. Like traversal in this game is very good. Vehicles are all very good. Your wingsuit, your grappling hook is very good. It's all a very tight package
Yeah.
as far as getting
Well
around is
refined. Yeah.
concerned. Yeah.
I'm gonna shout out their sharks. I was crossing the ocean at one point there as I left Libertad and got like I nearly hit the roof at one point there, and I was playing this sequence at work at the time, in my office with everyone else working around me. I was without a computer for a while for some work reasons, so I'll just play some PlayStation in the meantime and dig into Far Cry. Just swimming my way across giant expanse of water. Shark bursts out of nowhere, grabs me. I didn't see it coming, just grabbed me. I nearly launched out of the chair, much to the shock of everyone else around me as well. So, congratulations, Ubisoft, on your sharks.
There is an excessive number of sharks around Yara. Like there are,
And
it's
Crocs.
an unrealistic number of sharks in this water. I always take. That's why I liked Guapo because Guapo used to eat the sharks. And that
Yeah,
was always fun. You'd have a crocodile versus shark battle, and Guapo would always come out on
always
top.
win.
So yeah,
Well, I reckon we wrap things up there. Again, everyone watching and or listening, be sure to go check out Matt's review on the website, player2.net.au. But Matt, for any further thoughts on Far Cry, or just anything else for that matter, where should people be going?
Yeah, head over to Huso81. I'm going to throw up some other screens that I took with the photo mode on my Twitter feed later tonight that I couldn't fit in the review.
Yep.
Just some fun ones that were a bit of fun to muck around with. So check them out, but head over to Player 2 AU for all of our stuff. We've got heaps coming up over the next couple of weeks,
Couple
being
hours.
couple of hours,
Two more
couple of
hours.
weeks, being the stupid season that it is, and some big surprises coming too. So.
Yeah, there's some really
Don't
cool
miss it.
stuff going on, so be sure to go check all that out. Paul James Games from me. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast feed. Patch, this is going up on the Patch Play podcast feed, obviously the YouTube channel as well. Go check all that stuff out. There's some fantastic things there. Again, Matt, thanks for jumping on and sharing all your thoughts.
Not a problem. It was a joy.
Ubisoft, thank you very much for providing us codes for this. We really appreciate it. And everyone else, thank you for watching and listening. We'll see you next time.
Catch ya.